Hi, welcome to some pincushion ideas that we're doing through GourmetQuilter.com. I am Susan Clare, GourmetQuilter, and there is information on my website about this program that we're doing. We're doing 20 different pincushions over 20 days. Today we're up to pincushion number 15. There is a pattern available if you're interested in receiving the patterns for all of the pincushions. It's on GourmetQuilter.com. And today what we're making is a very cute little sort of square, raised sort of square pincushion. It's just raised in the centre. It has a basically flat bottom. It has sides that you could put clips onto if you wanted to. It has a place for pins. You could even sew a little decorative button or charm or something like that on if you chose to. So we've got little pleated corners here which help raise this centre piece up. So I just thought that was kind of cute. It just sits nicely. So I'm going to go ahead and show you how to make it. So what we've got here is we've got a front. This is going to be my centre square. So where the yellow is here is going to be dark. We're making a dark one this time. This is my underside. It's going to go underneath. And then these are the sides. And so two sides are shorter because they go either side of a square. And then two sides are a bit longer because they've got the little corners already attached, and I've already done that, and everything has a piece of just a lightweight batting behind it because it all sits together nicely. And also in the centre I'm going to put crushed walnut shell, and the batting helps soften and contain it. So lots of things, and I even have a nice little button to go on there. So what we need to do is have our centre square, and we will just want to mark the centre points of each side of the centre square. And we also want to do the same thing on the side. So you possibly can't see it, I've used a little fine yellow marking mechanical pencil. So I've marked my centres there, and also the centre again in that area there of all four sides of those, and all four sides of the centre square. So what we want to do now, and we need some pins, and oh look, we have a pincushion with pins in it. What we want to do now is just work on one side at a time, and we'll start with these two short sides. So we want to bring the two centres together. So I am suggesting pins, much as I'm quite wary of pins for this. We want to put a pin in the centre there. Then we want to bring up the edge here, and we just want to come in from the edge a little bit there, maybe 3/4 of an inch. And same on this edge here. So bring the corners together basically, and then we've got this bunchy bit in the middle here. So if you pin it about the same distance from the edge, and you need a little distance here because we need this pleat to be a distance here, and there's a seam allowance as well. So having got those pins, and we've got this bubbly bit here, we just now want to, where this pin is here, we want to start folding or laying flat the fabric from the centre into where that pin is there to form that pleat, and then we can put yet another pin in there to hold that pleat, so that the pleat on this side looking at it is facing you towards the centre, and the same thing on this side. And that's reasonably important that the pleats are going in those directions so that they're facing each other, so that you get this nice sort of boxed area on the sides there. And we'll put another pin in there. So everything should now be the same length as that short side. It should look a little bit bunchy, but it's all looking pretty good. And we just now need to stitch that seam. So we'll go to the machine and we'll do that. Just a regular 1/4 inch seam. And just go carefully. If you're going to sew across those pins, just take it slowly and carefully. You can take the pins out, but it's quite good to keep the pleats in place. So that was relatively painless. We have already one pleated side done. How amazing is that? So we need to do that now on the opposite side, exactly the same thing again. So you don't need to watch me a second time. I'll go ahead and get this done, and then we'll be doing it on the other side. So I'll come back and show you doing one of the other sides as well. So I'll get this one done first. So I've gone ahead, I've sewn both of those ends, so I've got a nicely pleated piece sitting in there. So that's looking pretty good. So now really we're doing exactly the same thing on these other sides. It's just that we've got this extra length and these extra bits here. But we're treating it exactly the same way. We're going to put two centres together just like we did on the short sides. And we're just really treating it like the short side because we just want that extra bit to go onto that longer piece there. So that is not part of the pleating. The pleating is still within this square in exactly the same way. So we can pop a pin in there because we've got to stitch across, but we still want to come in approximately, it'll be, because we've already taken the seam allowance off here, we just want to come in about 1/2 inch there because we've already used up 1/4 inch of our space there. And exactly the same thing, do the pleats on this side in just the same way so that they're sitting with that folded bit towards the centre as we look at it, and have these seams heading out towards the outside edge, and everything should match pretty well. That seam should match in there. So just come in. So it's still 3/4 inch from the edge, but it's 1/2 inch from the sewn seam that we've done. Fold that in where the pin is, and it's all looking pretty good. So it just looks a bit complicated with all these pins and with these little foldy bits in the centre here. But as long as where you're stitching everything is sitting nice and straight, so the pleats are nice and straight, that's great. So I'll go ahead and stitch that side, and I'll do exactly the same thing on the other side. So I've sewn all 4 of my sides on now. I did the other side as well. So I'm just going to press this seam. So I want to press the seam. It's not going to be easy to press, particularly because of all this centre bit here. But I want to press the seams out from the centre. It'll just help the centre sit better because of the pleating there. It will want to go that way anyway. And I just think it'll just sit better if we can get that seam itself pressed. So that's looking pretty good. Weird, but good. So you can see how that's coming up now. So now we want to pop it right sides together with the back. So the back's just got a piece of batting on it. I haven't quilted it. I will be doing some stitching around, and I didn't think it needed anything in there. If you want to quilt it first, of course, you go right ahead. So I'm going to stitch these right sides together, and we need to go all the way round, but we do need to leave a gap in one of the sides for turning and filling. So maybe 2 inches in the centre of one of the sides. Other than that, all the way around, and then we'll be turning it out the right way as soon as we've clipped the corners. So I'll go ahead and do this bit and show you the next bit. So I've gone all the way around, I've left myself a gap for turning. I'm just going to clip these corners so that when we turn it out, the corners are not too congested. Don't clip your stitching, would not be helpful. And now we just want to turn that out the right way. Which I'm quite sure you know how to do. And then we are going to give it a press once I've got it out the right way and I've pushed all my corners out. So I'm going to find my trusty little pencil corner pusher. So it is a slightly unusual shape at this stage, but it will improve. So I'm just going to try and get those corners sitting as nicely as we can. Having the batting in there does make things like the corners a little bit bulky, but it makes it nicer in other ways, so it's worth it. I just use a fairly thin batting. You don't want anything too bulky because of this sort of thing. Okay, and then I just like to run my tool around that seam just to make sure things are sitting out as well as they can where we've stitched the seam, and then I'll give it a quick press. Now we've got to work out how to fill it because we're having the sides flat, so we've got a little bit of a stitching thing to do to make that work. But first of all, I'll just get these edges all pressed nicely, because that will all help. Try and keep them nice and straight so that they don't want to curve in or do anything unnecessary like that. And this one here where the opening is, if we can press those edges in as if they were joined so that it doesn't look like there's anything there, then that will be really good as well. Let's press that one in. Yep, I think this one is looking pretty good. It just needs a little bit more of a press on the top edge there. It hasn't quite gone in right. So you want that in that 1/4 of an inch seam allowance so that it's all sitting nicely. That's looking pretty good now. So what we want to do now is stitch around close to the centre, so on the sides but close to the centre, maybe 1/8 of an inch away, a top stitch all the way round through all layers, but not where we've left the gap, because we've still got to get the filling into the centre there. But if we stitch that around now, then the filling's got somewhere to fill. So we'll do that and leave the same gap here as you've left on the outside so that we can do it that way, and then we'll come back and close it off afterwards. So I'll go ahead and do my 1/8 inch away from the centre except where the gap is. So I've done my top stitching all the way around except where the gap is, and that's so that I can fill through that same space that I'm going to put the walnut shell in, so I can fit my funnel right through into that centre area there, and then we can fill to our heart's content. So by having done that stitching around, we've got somewhere for the filling to stop at, which is really good, because I didn't really want the filling in the sides this time, because I want to keep that flat so we can put the clips on the edge if we want to. We may not want to, but so I'll keep going and get this filled up. It fills up to that nice sort of square shape with a little bit of encouragement, and then I'll show you how to finish it all off. So I've gone ahead and I've filled it. I haven't stitched it up yet. So you want it to be reasonably full. It's got a little bit of squidge in it. We need to be able to push it down just a little bit where we're going to stitch, because I'm going to suggest that we go back to the machine and top stitch the rest of that 1/8 line just nearby there, keeping everything else sitting nice and straight as well. So if you can just squidge it out of the way just enough that you can get the sewing machine next to it, and I think you probably can, then that will be good. I'm just going to come along and close up that gap bit. Looking good. So all our filling is now enclosed. That's all looking great. So we can squidge it around to our heart's content now. And now what we need to do, I'm going to suggest that we do another couple of rows of sewing. So one about 1/8 of an inch from the outside edge, and that will then close the gap. We don't even need to hand stitch on this one. And then a row in between all the way around. So 2 more rows of stitching all the way around. So I'll go ahead and do those and come back to you. So I'm just going round doing the middle line of sewing now. I've done the outside, and this feels a bit weird with this great big thing sitting here, but it's actually kind of friendly, really. Here I am back where I started. It's looking pretty good. And I went ahead and I sewed my button on. So to do the button, so that it sits there, I didn't want to pull it in too tight or do anything like that, but so that the thread's not kind of coming out here, I've actually put the thread in at an angle from here, just with a slightly longer needle, and sewn the button on and then finished off again just there, so that it doesn't really show and leave you a sort of dimple in the back, unless you wanted to put another button on the back, of course, that would be another option. So, and you don't have to have a button on it. I just thought it was kind of cute with a little button sitting there. I like the little ladybird. I like the little sunflower. Oh, ladybirds and sunflowers together. And I thought maybe a darker pincushion just for a change was kind of fun. We can stick our pins in there. So, and we can stick the clips, as I've said, on the outside edge. And I just thought that was just another nice little pincushion. That was pincushion number 15. Of our 20 pincushions, so we're getting through it. We're 3/4 of the way through. So I will see you again, thank you, with pincushion number 16.